Hi, Peter Boolkah here, and welcome to today's edition of the Transition Guy. Now, joining me today is Matthew Lee Sawyer, who is an American business founder, teacher at Columbia University and NYU, and an author of the book Make It in America. Welcome, Matthew.
Well, thank you so much, Peter. I'm delighted to be here and to have a chance to talk with you and your listeners.
Oh, thank you. I mean, intro's a bit of a mouthful. You've done quite a lot. You do a lot of teaching. What do you teach in?
So I'm teaching. I started teaching about 8 or 9 years ago. It's a second or third career for me. So I've been teaching at Columbia University. I've been teaching courses in marketing strategy and communications. I developed a course there called the Industry Insider, which gives students from all over the world that come to Columbia to New York an inside look at the marketing and media communications industry. And we bring in a lot of experts and company. This past semester, we had people from Google, had people from Colgate, MasterCard, and it's a way to interact with the students and business executives. And at NYU, I've been teaching more traditional business strategy and marketing strategy.
And you bring out the word marketing a lot. And right now, a lot of businesses out there, they really do not appreciate how much they are in a marketing economy. And we're seeing that I'm not sure what it's like in the US for many of the people that you know, but a lot of the companies in the UK, the ones that are not making it, isn't because there is a lack of business, because everyone downplays an economy. But
Right.
yeah, of course, an economy is not as easy as it has been previously, but there's still so much business. And I seem to well, I personally feel that right now we are first seen, first bought economy, where if you are seen first by the people searching for you, you stand the highest chance of actually getting the business.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think that marketing is, certainly critical. And there are lots of different phases within the marketing. So certainly in terms of as you pointed out, in terms of that final stage, in terms of what to communicate, how to arm the salespeople in terms of, and whether it's digital marketing, in terms of getting those customers. But then there's also really in terms of the first part of marketing, which is around, okay, what is it that you want to be selling? What is it that you want to be telling people? Who are the markets and the opportunities in terms of and then from there is that identifying or putting together that strategy that then really helps to organize the whole company.
Why do you think the smaller businesses, especially in the UK, I mean, the mid-market businesses are relatively few, corporations even fewer. Why do you think this level of marketing never filters down to entrepreneurs?
I'm not sure. I think that entrepreneurs are very good in terms of, listening to the markets, identifying what the needs are. It's the problem that they have is in terms of scaling up. Often you'll have a very dynamic entrepreneur, business founder, but then how do you then scale that in terms of the organization, which is one of the things that my book covers and really looks into is how do you scale? And the book is about, in terms of, it's called Make It in America, how international companies and entrepreneurs can successfully enter and scale in US markets. And it really positions in terms of the US as the best market in the world. It's the largest, it has the most stable economy. There's so much opportunity in terms of finance. The stock market, there's so many opportunities, and to come to the US requires a certain there's a lot to know and there's a lot to do. So that's really where my focus is that how do you help entrepreneurs or established businesses, then come to the largest and most lucrative market in the world.
Okay, so what are some of the unique challenges companies may face when they are considering expanding into the US market?
Well, well, the first one is that it's so huge. It's like where do you first go? Where do you play? And so that is in terms of, well, what are the locations? What are the products? There's one company that we work with. It's featured in the book, which has providing architectural and building supply products. It's a Belgian company, and they had 1,000 different products that they could have brought in, but then they identified, okay, here are the top 4 or 5 that were first going to come in, and then after that, then they since they grew from there, and since they built a factory here and they've really expanded. So what are the product categories? What are the markets? There's so many different in terms of 330 million people, and then within there are so many different tribes and markets. Which of those, what are the channels of distribution, choosing what of those. So there's so many decisions that need to be made, and really focusing in on what of those decisions.
Okay. So when you talk about coming into the US, are there any cultural and marketing differences or market differences that companies need to be really aware of?
Oh, absolutely. And culture is such a big one. And then when you talk to companies that have struggled and failed or struggled, that the culture is often one that they talk about. So one of the things that we're doing with my company, it's called U.S. Accelerator, is the one we help companies in terms of identifying those, what are the markets, putting together a market map, so identifying, and then from there, so the sort of what is that, but then also putting together a culture map,
Okay.
understanding what cultures are. And then what I've done is over the past year, I've enlisted people from Europe. I've got someone on the team from Switzerland, from Belgium, from Italy, someone from Latin America, to help in terms of, well, how does that then relate or translate to the culture in each one of those countries? So there's one thing in terms of understanding or someone telling you what American culture is like, but then what are the differences between your culture, and so that you can really navigate in. And that really needs that, you can read about it, but unless you're here and have that coaching, it's really hard to be successful.
So culture is definitely something that companies need to consider before moving to the US. Yeah. I've never come across that before in terms of sort of the whole culture roadmap. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, so how we're putting it together, and there's some great case studies in the book. There's one about a German company. It was a German window company. The name of the company is called Mank, and they had been in business for like 120, maybe 125 years in Germany, making really fine uh, wooden windows and doors. And and then in 2014 or 2015, they saw there's a huge opportunity. They had already been selling into the United States, where people have been bringing, said, well, let's go after it in a big way. So they got a $10 million investment. They built a factory. They came up, they hired people and they staffed it. And then within 2 years, they ended up going out of business and going back, but they're still in business in Germany, but they closed the factory, and they left the United States. And so, but it was all because of culture. And it was one of the reasons is the product. So the product itself is that they were making these tilt and turn windows, which in Europe is very popular, where you pull it into
Mm.
the 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 room. Or in the United States, well, they don't really use that because they use either casement windows that go out or double hung windows. So they didn't understand the customers, and then also in terms of just understanding the cultural, in terms of the skilled workers. There were so many things, and they had this attitude, well, things are much better and we're 10 years ahead in terms of being more energy efficient, better windows. We're 10 years ahead of the US market. So of course they're going to want our product because our product is better. but that didn't work out for them.
Clearly a lot of work to be done there. And surely that's the same principle that applies to any company going into any international market.
Yeah, you need as I say, is you wouldn't go to a holiday, you wouldn't go on a trip without a map. Why would you try to enter, a new market with your business without a really clear picture of a map of where you want to be going? What are the things to highlight? What are the things to potential issues and problems to avoid? Who are the competitors? And then also in terms of, as you had mentioned, the cultural aspects.
Hmm. So if someone is planning to relocate their business to the USA in the next year or so, what three practical strategies or tips would you suggest for them to make the move more successful?
Yeah, well, I think, it's one thing in terms not so much a relocate, although there certainly are companies that have. There's an Australian company that started in Australia, and then because the U.S. market is called Rocked, because the U.S. market is so huge for them, they're in the e-commerce software. They
Yeah.
ended up moving the headquarters to New York City. Um, but it's really just expanding. And I think the first thing is really this idea of really needing to do the homework, to do the investigation. Um, the head of the Italian American Chamber of Commerce said that so many companies that he sees, they say, okay, well, let's go to the U.S. and then once we're there, we'll figure it out. But you need to do that homework before, and then find who are those people that you can trust, who are those trusted advisors. The other thing is that you really need to make sure that you have it's not inexpensive. So, in terms of whether it's hiring people, whether it's office space, legal is a really important factor. The U.S. legal market is so different than any other country, and you really need to employ really uh, knowledgeable, successful lawyers, and they're not inexpensive. So you need to make sure that you have the financing. And then the third thing I'd say is that you need to have a longer term perspective. And then it's going to
Okay.
be, having it in terms of thinking about it. Well, we might lose money in the first, couple of years, but we really have a longer term, a 3 to 5 year perspective, because the upside is so huge. It's such a huge market. We're well in terms of the economy, the opportunities. We have to have a long-term perspective.
That's interesting. Thank you. So it's something a little bit more lighthearted. I mean, I've heard numerous times that American consumers are more likely to make impulse purchases, while European consumers are more likely to do research before making a purchase. Do you think this myth is true?
Well, I think that certainly is. There was a Belgian company that was in the book that I talk about, and that it was a software product for, it was a business to business, where it was doing security and building security in terms of having people come in. And they found that it was very easy that customers would maybe after a couple of phone calls, they test it and then they buy it. But then they had a very low in terms of they were quick to say, well, this isn't working, or I have this problem. And then all of a sudden it became, oh, I'm going to get rid of it because it's not doing what you said it was. So there's a very high degree of expectations. So in
Mm.
some ways, maybe there is more of that impulse, but there's also the U.S. consumers can be very demanding and finicky too. So getting that, right in terms of understanding what their needs are, the communications, the expectation. In their particular case, the first people that they hired were customer service people, and that they hired customer service people in the U.S. to manage those relationships here, and they found it was easy for them to sell in Europe, but they needed to have that on the ground customer service were the first people that they hired here.
So that's really important. Okay, great. And circling back around to marketing, how do you stay ahead in an ever-evolving landscape of digital marketing? And what trends do you see shaping the future of online advertising?
Yeah, so when it keeps on changing, and that's part of it is in terms of it just gets more um crowded and more so breaking through. So I think that the idea of trust, having trusted sources, having one of the things that I'm building or put together, which I encourage your listeners to join. So on LinkedIn, I created a group called U.S. Business Acceleration. And it's
Okay.
all about having curated information about the US market. I don't know if you go onto LinkedIn, there's so many things about people's promotions, about birthday parties, about, advertising. It's just like, I call it like a dog's breakfast.
Well,
There's so many.
it's like Facebook for professionals.
Right. So what I'm doing is creating a channel where it's curated information of just one, and there's no anyone can join and anyone can. We do validate all of the information that gets put up there, but I think that that's a trend that I see is that people are going to go back to those trusted sources.
Providing this good information, great.
Yeah.
Now, if people are interested in what you are discussing today and they want to delve a bit deeper, what's the best way to sort of research your work in deeper detail or maybe connect with you?
Yeah, no, definitely. Thank you, Peter. The two things is that my book is available on Amazon and all of the leading booksellers, and the name of the book is called "Make It in America: How International Companies and Entrepreneurs Can Successfully Enter and Scale in U.S. Markets." It was published by Wiley in 2022, and December of 2022. And then my company called U.S. Accelerator .biz is available on, of course, the internet. We have our website. Maybe
And
you can put
obviously, you do
a
live
link
on
to
LinkedIn
that.
as well.
Yes, LinkedIn as well.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much, Matthew. That was totally insightful. If anything's resonated with you today, you want a bit more information, please head over to boolkah.com and get in touch. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like it, subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes, and also share it with other people so that we can really get it out to as many people as possible. And remember, failing to learn is learning to fail. Once again, Matthew, thank you very much. You've been an awesome guest.
My pleasure. Thank you very much, Peter.